He confessed, under oath, in open court, to killing 4 people.
Details in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Police say the 4 victims were targeted and the killer...
He waived his right to ever appeal it, and a year later, from inside a maximum security prison, he said he wants it back. 4 students, 1 house, a knife sheath with no fingerprints, and a question prosecutors themselves admit they still can't answer. Why? November 13th, 2022, Moscow, Idaho, a small college town where nothing like this had happened before. 4 students from the University of Idaho were found dead inside an off-campus rental house. Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. Nearly 3 years later, the man responsible would stand in a courtroom and say one word, 4 times. Guilty. This is how investigators built a case out of almost nothing, and why, even after a confession, this case refuses to close. Bryan Kohberger wasn't a stranger to the subject of murder. He held a master's degree in criminal justice, and at the time of the killings, he was working toward a PhD in criminology at Washington State University, just 10 miles from where the victims lived. He worked as a teaching assistant, though reports say he was already under review over complaints from students and faculty, and was later let go from that role. In the early hours of that November morning, someone entered the King Road house where 6 students lived. 4 of them, Mogen, Goncalves, Kernodle, and Chapin, were killed. 2 roommates survived. According to court documents, one of them woke around 4 a.m., heard sounds in the house, and saw a masked figure dressed in black walk past her toward a door. She didn't call 911 right away. It would be hours before anyone did. For weeks, there was no named suspect, just a small town in shock and a police department under intense pressure. Investigators combed the scene for anything left behind. They found it in the bed where 2 of the victims were discovered, a leather knife sheath. No fingerprints. But traced Dina on the snap. Records show Kohberger had purchased a matching Ka-Bar knife and sheath on Amazon 8 months earlier. The knife itself was never recovered. That Dina wasn't in the National Criminal Database. So investigators turned to genetic genealogy, tracing distant relatives to build toward a name. At the same time, traffic cameras had caught a white Hyundai Elantra circling that same neighborhood more than once in the hour before the murders. Both trails converged on the same person. Investigators later pulled trash from the Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania and matched the Dina. They even tested parts of his car, the gear shift, the turn signal, for further confirmation. Bryan Kohberger was arrested 6 weeks after the murders at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. He was indicted on 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. For more than 2 years, he maintained his innocence, and the case moved steadily toward trial. Then, weeks before jury selection, everything changed. On June 30th, 2025, Kohberger accepted a plea deal. Days later, in a Boise courtroom, he pleaded guilty to every count, sparing himself the death penalty and giving up his right to ever appeal. He was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms without parole, plus 10 years for burglary and roughly $290,000 in restitution to the families. He said nothing to the court. And prosecutors admitted something striking that day. Even they couldn't say why he did it. The victims' families didn't all see that outcome the same way. Some accepted it as the end of a painful chapter. Others, including Kaylee Goncalves' family, were openly critical, saying the deal let Kohberger avoid a public reckoning at trial. That disagreement over what justice actually looked like has never fully gone away. That should have been the end. But in July 2026, Kohberger filed a handwritten petition from prison, asking a judge to let him take the plea back. He claims his own defense team misled him with promises about prison conditions and warnings about death row he now calls false. He's since told a reporter directly that he claims innocence. Legal experts point to the obstacle ahead of him. Under oath, he told the court he was pleading guilty because he was guilty. Undoing that isn't simple. But the filing alone has reopened a case many assumed was permanently closed. Just days after that petition became public, Netflix released its own account of the case, a 3-part series built on police footage, unsealed interviews, and the words of the families who lived through it. The filmmakers say they deliberately waited to let the story settle before telling it. It became one of the platform's most watched true crime releases of the year. But for those closest to it, the timing wasn't lost on anyone. Some see the petition as an attempt to pull attention back toward Kohberger, right as the victims were finally being remembered. Nearly 4 years on, the central question of this case has never been answered in a courtroom. Why these 4 people? Kohberger has never said. The confession that was supposed to bring closure never explained it, and the fight to undo that confession has only added another layer of doubt. Whatever happens next in an Idaho courtroom, the settled facts remain settled. 4 young people are gone. A man confessed to killing them, and a legal fight over that confession is only beginning. The rest of the why may never be something anyone outside that house will ever fully know. Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin.